Welcome to our third leader interview in our Cold Chain Live series. My name's Shane Brennan and I'm the Chief Executive of the Cold Chain Federation, and I'm joined today by Paul Jackson, who is the Managing Director of Chiltern Distribution and somebody who is very well known throughout the sort of UK cold chain network. Welcome to Cold Chain Live, Paul.
Morning, Shane. How you doing?
I'm really good, thanks. I'm really good, and thanks so much for doing this. As I say, you're someone who's been in the UK cold chain for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit of the story of how you got into cold chain and how your career has gone working within it?
Yes, so I started Chilton Cold Storage. I was previously working for a company manufacturing ice cubes in the late 80s, early 90s. I started Chilton Cold Storage in 93, 94. And I really fell into it by default. We was distributing a Japanese sushi product, which was brand new then, way back when. And I started the company with wanting to deliver a service to clients, which I thought was missing in the industry. So there are a lot of big players around in that time. We were talking about the Christian Salversons and people like that. And they were very large scale. So I wanted to appeal to a smaller delivery, more personalised service. So I started that in 94 with a small chamber freezer, which was probably at 30 pallets, which seems ridiculous to say that now, and one small van. And it all started from there. And through the service model, we gradually got more and more clients and bigger clients, and we moved to bigger premises, progressing through the 90s into the year 2000. We had a tie-up with an old company, Eisenman International, which were a German home delivery service. How apt would that be now? But it was very new at the time. We took residency in 50% of their cold store at Corbury, which was a big step for us because that took us to, wow, 1,500 pallets of frozen space. And to that, we added 15 courier vans. We then managed to secure our own site back over in Cambridgeshire because we've been a bit nomadic in our time. We started in St Neots, we moved to Wellingborough, Corby, so we've been around a few different locations, and it culminated in us finishing up in Peterborough, where ironically we took a long leasehold interest in a former Christian Salverson property. So it sort of went full circle, really. They were going back to the 80s. They were the first company to invent this word logistics. For once in one time out that you could have one truck turn up with some old brands on it that, probably some of them are still not going. You had Alveston Kitchen, everything was on one truck. So they invented this consolidation mode that we all use today. So ironically, yeah, we ended up a long-term leasehold, Chilton Cold Storage Group in 2006. And then fast forward to 2018, there was a management buyout of Chilton Cold Storage Group. That resulted in me taking on Chiltern Distribution, which was the distribution arm of that company. I moved to a site in Whittlesea. John Davison, my former partner in Chiltern Cold Storage, now runs Chiltern Cold Storage out of the site in Peterborough. So that is a quick snapshot of history. So I've seen a load of changes, a lot of things different to what they used to be. Some for the better, some for the worse.
And like you say the mantra throughout has been the idea of service. You've always operated at that sort of more premium end, premium equipment, premium sort of customer service, sort of reliable kind of brand. That's sort of the Chiltern mantra, isn't it?
Yeah. So for me, I realised that I could not compete on price alone. We needed to offer something extra to the client. So what we wanted to be a one-stop shop. So we wanted to be for a manufacturer or a company that supplies a product, that we would be the one-stop shop. So in our time, we've offered telesales services for those clients, complete warehouse management system, and delivery to end user. Even some sort of merchandising, so putting products into freezers and things of that nature. So we like to do the fiddly things that some of the big boys don't want to do, can't do. It is beyond their remit. It was finding our market. And as you say, it was always based on service. So I have never taken a job on, Shane, that I can't do 100% because there's no point for me. Life's too short to have the stress and trauma of doing a job that is beyond. It's knowing what your key strengths are, and I think that's where we are as a company. We know what we're good at. We know what we can offer our clients, but we also know what we can't do and where there are other companies that are better at doing that than what we actually are. And I think that's been a bit of a change in the industry. I touched on that earlier, that I think we need to come together now as an industry. So for instance, if I got an inquiry that would suit one of the bigger people, Lineage for instance, you know, I would now pick the phone up and speak to Tim or whomever at Lineage and say, look, I've got this inquiry. It's not for me. It's not my key strength, but it's right in your sweet spot. And I think that's what we need to get to, rather than trying to be everything to everybody. You know, I try and focus on what we're good at for individual specific customers, you know, and personal service. I'm still here every day, you know, I'm on the phone every day, I'm quite involved every day. And that can be a tie, you know, because obviously when you're looking to bring people on in the business, everybody wants to speak to myself. So you know, it's not all wonderful, but that's the model that we've worked on, Shane. Yeah.
Let's get on to our main topic. It's been a fantastic, interesting conversation already, but let's talk about the theme of our Cold Chain Live event, which is the idea about the future of transport and this idea of the road towards net zero. I know we're talking about being carbon neutral as an economy by 2050, and transport generally is our problem within that. And within transport, large, heavy haulage is the biggest problem within it. So that's really the theme of our discussion. Can you give me a sense, from your sort of relatively close to the coalface perspective of this, how you sort of see that big picture challenge? How do you see your role as a business and as an individual in that?
Okay, so I think fundamentally all of us, generally as hauliers, we are keen to invest in the technology, Shane, and embrace any technology, but the technology is not there. It's as simple as that. I can't put it any other way, you know. So a big Swedish manufacturer launched a truck yesterday, articulated tracked unit, 70 kilometers range. I can't even get to London from here. So the whole model's got to change. So we're going to have to probably potentially have more RDCs, shorter end delivery legs, but that's a massive infrastructure investment. We are all looking for an alternative. You know, we've tried biodiesel in the past. We're now looking for the next thing. Battery technology, my opinion, it's not there. You know, battery cars, yes, but again, if you run a battery car, I do. The infrastructure is not there either yet. You know, it is the future, but the infrastructure is not there. So for trucks, putting a battery into a truck at this moment in time, it is not going to work. You've got to look at other technologies like hydrogen. You know, that's used. I can see that working. For me, I think potentially the future is hydrogen, but we need, you know, the government need to invest in that with manufacturers and, you know, put in situations where it's beneficial for them to take those, take the big jump into that and look at investing into that. And they're going to need help from the government, as are the hauliers going to need help from the government, because the thing that people tend to miss is there are hundreds of thousands of diesel tractor units in the UK. What's going to happen to all those after day one? You know, is there going to be a scrappage scheme? So I think the industry in general wants to embrace the green, you know, the net zero, but there's got to be more investment and research put into a sustainable option for us to use. And if you go to the fridge side of it, which is obviously key to our hearts, we've had conversations regarding the transport refrigeration units, the TRUs, and the red diesel that's going to be changing shortly, and we're campaigning hard to try and change that levy. The problem is with that, again, there's no real alternative. You know, we've done a lot of work, us both, Shane, and involved some of the other big players, and looking at what difference does actually putting white diesel or red diesel and changing the duty. It makes no difference to air quality. In fact, it can be proven that it actually worsens it because you're putting more of a load onto the tractor unit. So it's very difficult to invest or to give you a, this is where I want to be. Fundamentally, same old comes back to the same old thing. The technology is going to cost more, you know.
Embracing the new technologies in your DNA, you know, you get pretty excited about innovation around vehicles and around trailer and equipment, and you pride yourself on being able to invest in the best quality kit throughout your career. That's been one of your markers of your business. So I don't think there's a resistance to innovation out there. but there is a kind of pragmatism around what is actually really genuinely realistic. And I think if we talk about things in terms of carbon neutral today in 2020, we're effectively alienating people, because there isn't really a route to that that's immediately apparent. But there is a marginal gain, isn't there, in all things? So, I mean, how do you approach that kind of marginal gain improvement in your efficiencies, and how do you balance? Is it as simple as, if it's cheaper, you'll do it, or is there an environmental overlay to that, and how you see those?
I think it's a bit of both, Shane. So for us, as you touched on, all my fleet is Euro 6, Euro 6 compliant. It was all Euro 5 when that was the compliance to be. So again, all the hauliers have invested in that. The majority of the hauliers are Euro 6. Because again, it's better for the environment. We're getting better fuel as operators, so it helps towards the profitability. So to answer your question, it's got to be a bit of both. There's got to be a gain, or certainly a neutral impact on the commerciality aspect of it, and something that does contribute to getting us to net zero. So for inner city, I think so a lot of the inner city, what I call curbside delivery. I think we have vehicles that are potentially nearly there to be able to take that up, but it's getting to that inner city. So we have got to see depots based on the periphery of the inner city, so M25, for instance, and then base some rigid sort of 18-ton vehicles there to do daily deliveries. But again, there's going to be more of those because of the less capacity. Is the road structure in London up for that? Well, Boris, bless his heart, has invested in a lot of cycle lanes and cut the roads to even narrower. So is that going to work? Has that been thought through? So that bit of technology works. To do the inner city deliveries, it's the trunking stuff where we're trunking stuff from one end of the country to the other, or east to west. That's where the technology is currently not there. So if anybody brings something out, if it's £10,000 more, but you get a return on investment, Shane, then people are going to do that, over a period of time. We're not looking to spend £10,000 more day one and get that back day two. We have to invest in our industry. All the haulage companies are the same, but there has to be a return on that investment over a period, be it 3, 5 or 7 years. So to go back to the trailer market, we all run trailers for 5, 7, 10 years even. There needs, and to spend £50,000 or £60,000 on a trailer with the latest refrigeration equipment, we're looking for a return on investment over that period of time. So it's the same if we go to electricity, or if we go to a different gas, or whatever it may be. We need to be able to look at that over a longer period of time and say, okay, it might be £10,000 more, because it could be less to run. So over the period of 5 years, it's going to be net zero to us commercially, as well as being net zero to the environment. So I think that's important.
I think the Euro 6 experience is the model, isn't it? A regulatory change that's the same, that creates a level playing field for everyone, but with a proper lead time, so business can incorporate that change into their business. Another question for you, really, Paul, is about kind of, let's assume that there's different steps we go through on the road to net zero involve more expensive equipment, certainly as they are adopted into the market. And that obviously creates an investment challenge for hauliers, particularly third-party hauliers like yourselves and even the bigger ones. How do you think customers of our industry are going to do you think they'll put their money where their mouth is when it comes to some of the environmental claims and environmental ambitions they set for their own businesses to sort of invest in their supply chains? And how do you think we have that conversation?
Yeah, I think fundamentally that is what's going to have to happen. And it will mean an increase, and eventually that will be passed on to the consumer. There's no other way around it. I mean, for me personally, I think food is too cheap currently. The one thing that COVID's done is people are potentially less wasteful than what they were, although I think we're returning to where we were pre that. But yeah, I think fundamentally for us to deliver that, and for our customers to be able to pass that on, it has to be paid for. So a good example of that is, you touched on the Euro 5, Euro 6, Euro 4 before that. So in London, for instance, there is only certain areas that you can go to. You have to have a Euro 6 compliant truck to do that actually physically to go into that journey. So again, that you're then getting into, that is a premium to be able to do. So if somebody's got a truck that's older or a less compliant truck, it can't make that journey. So again, people are going to have to start paying for what they want eventually. That's what it comes down to. we cannot, as an industry, subsidise the net zero. That's a big no-no. There will be no industry left if that's what people are anticipating is going to happen. So, I think there's a conversation to be had, a sensible conversation to be had with suppliers, manufacturers, and end users. And it's going to take some pricking of people's consciences, Shane. Really, that's what it comes down to. We all want this blue sky and everything. So then that comes with a cost. But it's achievable, but it's going to cost money.
And I think it's never easy. Competition is fierce. Negotiations are hard. There's the customers can be and generally everyone in the market can play hardball with everything all the time in the short term. But the trend, whether it's Brexit, whether it's COVID, whether it's net zero, these trends are pushing the reality check that this is not something that can be done cheap and below cost forever. Value has to come into the industry.
Yeah, and again, in my time, I've seen a load of companies fold, finish. So there's less choice for people out there now for manufacturers, and I think we're now getting to a situation where the people that are left out there, not so many small companies now, some big players out there. There's not that choice, and the realization is that we cannot keep driving the price down and driving these companies into bankruptcy, basically, because the food has still got to get around. So if you go back to when COVID struck, there was a mass panic buying of everything, and it wasn't just toilet rolls, there was a massive panic buying on food products. You couldn't get a truck, love nor money. My phone was ringing off can you go to Spain to pick up oranges? And it was like, the price is right, it was name your price. That lasted for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But, because...
It was a brilliant 2 weeks though, Paul.
A great 2 weeks. No, utopia. But so for me, there is less choice. So you've got to, partnership is the way forward. An open-ended, we need this much to make this much to invest this much. It's not rocket science. People are not going to spend. And if you sat down, and we've had this conversation, so you know exactly what I'm going to say. If we sat down in front of some finances and say, okay, I'm going to buy 10 trucks, 10 trailers. So I'm looking at over £1 million investment there, and I'm going to get a net return of 1 or 2% if I might get 3 or 4 if I'm really smart. They would look at you in disbelief, because the return on investment in our industry is not great. We know that, we moan about it, because why wouldn't we? We're hauliers. So fundamentally that has to change. And I think certainly for me and my clients, my customers, we look at, we're very open, this is the job you need doing. This is what the costs involved, implications are in that. Here it is. And if they're like, well, we need it for this, well, we can do that, but then you're going to be just had a cup of tea delivered, you're going to get what you want to pay for. And I think by more close working with my customers, and for that any customers, Shane, get to know what they actually want, what they're looking to achieve, and that again is what we're trying to do. My starting point is we can do anything. What do you actually want? What do you actually want to pay for? And I think that we need to look at mileages that are, empty miles running that me and you spoke about. There's a lot of that. There's still very much in our industry, I'm not going to let him do that backload in case he nicks that work. And, that surely has got to change in the future. And I don't know how that's going to change because it's been like that since time immemorial. There is a lot of empty running in the UK, as you know. We've tried different things to try and fix that. So far, what we've tried hasn't worked. So we'll have to try something different. But there are a lot of things that we've got to look at. But I think fundamentally, people in our industry, the cold chain industry, have got to return a profit, else they won't be there.
Yeah, and I think there's one other sort of dimension to this, which I don't think that's probably worth touching on. It's a bit sort of more controversial, so you don't need to say too much about it. Is the framework behind some of this stuff. So we talked a bit about companies going bankrupt and stuff, and I think surely, in a net zero world, companies that do the right thing can't be put at a disadvantage. So you've got to be in a situation where if you are working day in, day out to do the right thing, you are staying alive through COVID, you are doing what you can to retain employees and provide good jobs, you are investing in the right kit, and you are you're trying to run a profitable business in a kind of clear sense. The businesses that don't do that can't be part of a net zero sort of future. And how we sort of create the framework and the rules of the game that prevent that is probably a key part of it as well.
Yeah, I think it is a key part, and I think it is the same. The strong will survive. The people that have invested will survive, and I think that's gone on since time immemorial. I think as legislation tightens on our industry and the demands on us to get to a net zero loom and get closer, ever closer, we've got to be smart in what we do. We've got to look at how we run our businesses and look at running them differently for the future, for 2030, 2040, 2050. We can't look back now. We can only change what we do tomorrow, and I think that's important. The industry is at a change, and we've got to start to look forward at how the whole supply chain, how we deliver everything throughout the UK. And that is fundamentally what we've got to do. We've got to have some visionary for what the next 20 years is going to look like, because they are going to be much different to what the last 20 years look like. There's not been massive changes. Telematics and things of that nature of changes that have come in the last sort of 10 years that everybody relies on. There's got to be much bigger changes coming, for the whole distribution model, for it to work to get to us to a net carbon zero, which is where we all want to get to.
Does that 20-year ambition excite you? So you've got 30 years-ish in of experience already. Do you sort of get excited about the idea of the next 20 years when you get up in the morning?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be around for a lot of them. Some people would say they're quite surprised I'm still here now, but it's so for me it's investing in the people in Chilton to be able to deliver that going forward. Because having started the company way back when, it's personable to me. I want to see the Chilton name out there for the next 30 years in some way, shape or form, and delivering the best of service and offering the customer the best value and being part of this net zero mission. We've all got to contribute to it, whether it's us at the real small end of the scale or the bigger guys. There's got to be shared technology, shared experiences. It can't be, like looking over the shoulder, cloak and dagger. We've all got to work together to get these deliverables and make the industry a net zero place. It's the only way it's going to work. Collaboration, Shane, is the word for me. It's got to be.
That is a neat segue into my last sort of question for you, really. And obviously, something you and I met very much at the start of when I came into the cold chain, came to the Cold Chain Federation in those early days. And since that point, you've been incredibly supportive and generous with your time and thinking to me and helping me, and what we've been trying to achieve here as the Cold Chain Federation. How do you see our industry, our federation, effectively, our trade body, playing a role in this in the years ahead?
I think it has a very important role to play to bring everybody together. Our industry has been, during my tenure, crying out for a federation that it can ask questions of, be guided by, and brought together by. And I think that's what the Cold Federation brings us, like-minded people sitting around a table and actually contributing to a conversation and giving you the ammunition, if you like, then to lobby government and things of that nature. That is the only way that we're going to make a difference as a complete whole, rather than all being individuals. And I know there's some big companies out there that carry a lot of clout. I get that, and we want them to be part of the federation, because we're going to represent those guys' interests as well, Shane, and the small people, all the same. We're all trying to push in the same direction. We all need to information share more, and I think the whole industry will then be a better place. I think we need to have that coming together, and that's what the federation does for me. I'm proud to be a part of it. I joined when you joined. I think you've taken it to another level. Tim, the same. We're now gaining ground. Obviously, things like COVID. When you get some crisis like that, it's great to have somewhere to go. Like the Cold Chain Federation. We haven't had that historically. And I think we're making massive steps. Are we there yet? No, we're not to where we want to be. We've got great ideas and where we want to be with the federation, Shane, but it's much more than what it used to be in terms of, you know, and I make no bones about it. And we said this when you first came to see me. Your question was, why are you in the FSDF as it was then? And I said, well, I get a massive rebate on my electricity, Shane. You know, anything else? No, not really. So it's not that anymore. You know, that still is an offering. I get that. But, you know, we've got to be much more. We've got to appeal to the industry and offer them value. You know, I don't think people are looking for price so much anymore. They're looking for value. And the two things are fundamentally different, you know, and the federation can offer its members value, and that's important.
Paul, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being part of Cold Chain Live.
Pleasure.
So it's been brilliant. So this is our third interview. If you're watching it live on the day we've released it, then there is a workshop session on Friday for you to take part in at 10:30, where we've got great speakers, including Alan Hunt from Schmidt's Cargo Ball. So please tune into that. If you haven't had chance to take part in any of our sessions live as they've happened, then they're all available for you to view back on our website, and you can find them via social media. So please just take the time to take a look at some of the content we've been sharing throughout these last 4 weeks. I think we've really been providing some real thought-provoking stuff that will help you in either your understanding of the cold chain or in understanding how it applies to your business. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to talking more. Thank you very much.